the members of CARE welcome you and thank you for taking your time off to listen to us.
And is accepted by everyone. Yeah. This kind of has for some has given us some kind of a relief, but this has to continue also in other directions, because we now see that it's just getting out of hand. I'm mistaken that these surveillance cameras have been in place, and even if the roads have not been completed, according to me, the network or the kind of connections which are required to a centralized system for monitoring this could have been made effective. If this was effective, this would act as a deterrent for anybody trying to break the rules. Yeah, and it could be of a great help in monitoring what's happening in Fontainhas. The big problem is that when you speak to some of the elements in the traffic department, they're saying they're too stretched. I can understand that they are stretched because there's so much of things happening in the city all over the place. But just having a camera is good enough to control this. Just to give an example, when I was in Hyderabad, the taxi that was taking me around was being very careful, observing speed limits, not going through any no entry, this thing. And I asked him, what's happening? How is it that you develop this kind of a responsibility in the city? He says, no sir, there's cameras everywhere. I break one rule, in just about 15 seconds I get an SMS to my mobile saying that you've broken this rule, this is your fine, and your challan is being posted to your registered address. Yeah? Now this is the kind of thing, you just do it for one or two people, everybody will fall in line. It's just because there's absence of monitoring. And the thing is that I think that this electronic surveillance helps a lot, because nobody is approachable to settle challans and bills. So this is the thing. Then we are having the third problem. While we managed to say restrict the parking of non-residents within the wards, this parking is now accruing along the entire stretch of road over here. And that is now the main arterial road. So if you start getting even a truck or a bus that tries to go and there's another vehicle coming across, that results in traffic jams. You know, and this area is also an area where there's a lot of two-wheeler vehicles that go, because they go to all their residential wards which are inside Bartley and all other areas. You know, they add to the chaos, because they all start then trying to force their way into their areas. We have another big problem, which is about rent a car and rent a bike vehicles. So these people are not familiar with the traffic movements of the city, you know, and they don't care, because you see all they have to do is at the end of they hand over the vehicle and they're out of the state. So they're not worried about getting a challan, not getting a challan, etc., etc. And in this case, if there's a surveillance system that monitors this movement, all right, and there's a challan which is sent directly to the person renting it, you know, by the time they go to hand over their vehicle, they will have a challan waiting for them. They will remember it for the rest of their lives. And I think that this is something that has to be put in place. All right. Tourist taxis. And this is one thing that we have a problem with the tourist taxis. Every tourist taxi is wanting to extend his services to his client, and they want to drive them. If it's possible to drive them inside the chapel also with the vehicle to show them, they will do that. So the thing is, how does one put these tourist taxis in their place? And I think that there have to be severe rules when they break these, they violate all these things of, you know, entering these areas with their large vehicles. And most of them today are large air-conditioned Innova vehicles that are not suited to the narrow lanes and roads of Fontainhas. So something has to be done to curtail this and put this in order. Now towards finding solutions. All right. One thing that I can think of, and we had thought of it much earlier, and all of them are also been saying about it, is whether it's possible to identify centralized parking lots. All right. And these centralized parking lots could be like how we have a centralized parking lot which has recently been done, which is now serving all those ferry tours, the
Cruise line.
cruise tourism, so something in that line, if spaces can be identified and things like that, then that would work very well, and that could be supported by creating a small vehicular loop system like a rickshaw or a small open bus or something like this. It could take people, and all you have to do is to run that entire bus along Rua de Ore or the rickshaw or anything. Then electric vehicles would be the best acceptable form. Yeah, you could run it along the Rua de Ore, because from Rua de Ore, any part into the interiors of Fontainhas and up till the base of the slope of Altino is just about 250, 300 meters, which is a walkable distance. So you've got a whole length of about 3 kilometers, access from this bus loop system, and just 250 walking distance, and I think that would be the best thing over there. It could help even the residents of Fontainhas to, if they want to park their vehicle in the centralized parking lot, to keep their vehicles over there and access this whole thing. We can also slowly start moving towards a walkable Fontainhas in the future. All right. Then we have another problem, which is how to tackle casino employee vehicles and casino taxi vehicles. This also has solutions, and these also can be connected with the centralized parking system if we can do it. Because if you come here, for example, in the evenings, right from the post office all the way into that road of Goan Road, you've got motorcycles parked continuously. On the other side, there are vehicles parked continuously. You see a narrow width over there. Panjim is now beginning to look like a parking lot. It's not looking like a city anymore. All this beauty and charm that we talk about the city is just simply overwhelmed with these machines that are placed on our streets. So we need to look at this. All right. Now this is as far as I can think of as far as your traffic, vehicular movement, and parking is concerned. All right. We have other concerns also. We have concerns about festivals and cultural events of the community. Now, from a very long time, we've been holding these cultural events and festivals in our wards. These are basically very community-led events, all right, and they're very intimate. So they are not to be made into a public event where you've got the whole city coming. There's a big sponsor, there's a casino which is sponsoring it, or there's a hotel that is sponsoring it. It has to be limited and maintained within the confines of the community and managed within the confines of the community. So anything to make that into a much bigger thing is only adding to our grief. All right. And last, we need to, and maybe that's last as far as I can recollect, but all of them will put their points, is the commercial signage. So now we are having a couple of restaurants which are coming all over Fontainhas and Sao Tome, and these are now trying to attract their clientele through commercial signages. All right. So there has to be a limit on how these commercial signages are displayed, where they are displayed, if they are supposed to be there, like a organized format at every junction of the street to show these directions, that direction, so be it. But they can't be the ones which are capturing all the visual space that we have in this area, because there's so much nicer things to see besides only their signages. And unfortunately, it seems to be what's happening in Fontainhas, Sao Tome, and the other wards and heritage wards of Panjim. So this is what I have to say. Now I will let anybody else who wants to say something or something different from what I have said, to have their say on this matter.
Thanks, Arvinio. Arvinio, like me, is also from Fontainhas, and I am living in Fontainhas for the last 70 years. He has summed up everything, but I will concentrate on one of the most difficult aspects about the negative side of the tourism, which I don't think so most areas have experienced. To sum it up, it's not people that is upsetting us, but it is their actions of these tourists that is upsetting us, because we are in a conservation zone. It talks about preservation and conservation, and people both from Sao Tome as well as Fontainhas, they are people who have a certain quality of life, and the quality of the life of the residents of these areas is on acts of kindness, on love, on respect, on honesty and loyalty. But what we see today, the people who are coming, they are not humane, There's no humane nature at all for the residents. And it is their behavior that is shattering, and their behavior is uncivilized, uncouth, unhuman, and boisterous behavior that we are now witnessing. To control this, I really don't know what will be the answers, because there are answers for the others, for other problems that Arminio has pointed out. You have the smart city and smart cameras as and when they come. But we would welcome this tourist with a proper civic sense, which is totally missing. And when we say that, tensions have been due to the differences in social values between tourists and locals. This is a very stressful situation for the residents, leading to problems affecting the peace of the place. It is very stressful. If you have seen the last incident that has taken place in Sao Tome, it's quite a stressful incident from both sides, and it has reached a breaking point, I should say. These tourists are shattering the peace of peace-loving citizens of both Sao Tome and Fontainhas. And Fontainhas is not a commercial zone. It's basically a residential zone, but we have now noise, we have the pollution noise, we have traffic congestion, and it all leads to stress, tension, worries, and anxieties. So now we are raising our strong voice for this type of negative tourism, which is all uncontrolled. And there is traffic congestion, as I say, and it continues because the police are not there to be seen anywhere. For us, it is the noise that is disturbing all of us, and most of us are citizens who are having quite an advanced age. Then there are vehicles who park there, and somebody is in the vehicle. They go around till they come, the vehicle is on, and they do not know that carbon monoxide is a killer in forms of cancer. You tell them about that, and they tell you, who are you to bring it to our notice? So the impact of tourism on people has affected the quality of life in Sao Tome and Fontainhas. It has become very, very stressful. It produces health and safety problems in the community. How these are to be tackled, I don't have a solution, but we need to all sit together and find out that we have quality type of tourists coming into our areas. Thank you.
Well, on my behalf, I would like to talk about, I would like to represent the next generation. We as a next generation are now looking forward to the younger generation, to the children of this generation that live in our locality. We also are concerned because our roads are actually lanes. They're small, they're fine. We've got our personal vehicles that are parked in front of our homes. We've got traffic that comes from inside, which has been happening over the years. The people, the locals from here, know the directions to take. They know the right side, they know the wrong side, they know the left and the right. But the new vehicles that come in, they're causing a lot of distress for the residents. We've got old people living over there. What happens when there is an emergency in a home? We are homes, we are not houses. So what happens when there is an emergency? We do not have space to get an ambulance inside. The ambulance has to be parked on the main road outside, that's Luadure. We don't have space for a fire brigade to be brought inside in case of any emergency which needs attention on the go. What happens to our old people? If we want to take them, even in our personal vehicles, we cannot park the vehicle and let an old elderly person enter the car because we've got vehicles behind us that are hooting endlessly. That causes more anxiety and distress to a patient and the one who's taking them to the hospital, for example. So we need to have something that, I don't know, I can't talk about the solution at this moment, but this is a major problem that people are facing. So any side they go, they hoot. Now we've got people riding over the footpaths, over the pavers, under the pavers, we've got our pipelines. So how do we do what we can, but if there are proper they come on the wrong side. The wrong side is very distressful because we've already got our mind set. Everybody has got their mindset already in place. This is the right, we go straight, end of the road, we go left, we go right. So when there's an object that's coming in the opposite direction, you know, we don't know where to go. That causes a lot of conflict on the streets. Something needs to be done to help us, help the old, and also our future generations. We need to keep this place protected for that.
Actually, see, I've been staying here for the past, since we were born, and we are having a small establishment also. So our ward is always a peaceful ward. So most of my colleagues, they have covered most of the points. But what I feel is, this tourism, we are not against tourism, but unorganized tourism. This is what is the problem. I feel like the government should appoint some tourist police or a traffic police. Now you see a lot of these renter cars and bikes, they don't know roads. They enter any side, wrong side, and they come full speed. And one more thing is these signages. Suddenly our roads have become no more zones. Now these tourists are taking advantage of it. They are occupying the full road, they are walking on it, and if we confront them, they are saying, see, this is the signs which are saying no more zones. I think which actually has to be changed, I feel. So that is a major problem what we have.
Do you believe that some kind of access control in terms of number or kind of activities that are allowed will be of help?
Yeah, so I think there are two types of things that are required to be seriously concerned. Like, we have to be seriously looking at. All right. One is, if we, like in Europe, you have got these hydraulic bollards. You know, they're the street, and they raise up after the resident has accessed his street and gone into his street, and then they drop again when a new resident comes. So it keeps on going up and down. But there's an issue with this. You know, we've got the main arterial road, which is Rua da Orelha, which comes from your from your Cor da Oiteiro. Yeah, and we have got movements along that road, and we've got school children coming from every side of the town. So introducing those things have got a lot of issues. All right. Number one, it would kind of create traffic jams in the process. But this is something that we let traffic planners examine and this thing. So there's partly a solution, but it also comes with problems, and that needs to be analyzed and seen how it can add value, or it can create a problem for us in the process.
Right.
All right. I think that the other thing is also we need to you see our building regulations prescribe up to 25% commercialization each house, all right, which is in the settlement area of conservation. All right. Now the problem is that this is being exceeded everywhere. Every house is becoming 100% commercial, which means that we are going to, and the reason for 25% commercialization was because it was a sustainable model. Yeah, it is a model by which the rest of Panjim was, because there used to be a commercial activity on the ground floor and the residences were above. And this kind of thing ensures that the residential character of Fontainhas and Sao Tome, Mala and Portage is not altered. You know, there will always be residents staying in the process. But what is happening is that the municipality on application is approving any commercialization to any extent of the house which is there, you know, and resulting in the fact that now we are having a much greater commercialization of these areas. Sooner or later, the residents will move out because the high rents that are available over there, and you will see a complete collapse, which means that the commercial activities will then be sitting over here to discuss how you can commercialize this even further. Yeah. Any place that is devoid of residents becomes a place where all wrong activities activities start entering into those places. You know, Pato Plaza, many years back, there was no hotels. So the last resident would be the resident who left his office maybe late by 9 o'clock, 9:30. That whole area was a black spot over there, and there are a lot of illegal activities that were happening in those areas. Something like this could trickle into Fontainhas, and we are very, very vulnerable. We are much more vulnerable than Pato is or any other area in Panjim is. It's central, you know. It has got all this very interesting architecture. It has got everything that big sharks also looking for. Right now, I am told, and I'm really worried about this, if it's true, you know, a lot of hawkers have now started entering Fontainhas. All right? You see what hawkers did to something like the Dona Paula jetty. Till today, the city is unable to deal with those hawkers because they try to give them a space to work. These guys say, no, we want to dominate this whole area.
How would you react on this when you talk about your side as a residential area? But there are some houses which are being used as Airbnb, guest houses.
Airbnb.
So if you talk about this, then tourists obviously will come there.
Yeah, so there are two things I believe. Well, there's what is called retail commercial activity and residential commercial activity. In residential commercial activities, things like Airbnb and things like that, what it does is it keeps people inside that area. You know, it allows people to remain in that area. People come, they go, all these happen. When it's retail commercial activities stop by 9:30, which means that now suddenly everything has vanished. Yeah, and today retail commercial activities are offering much higher revenues than residential commercial activities. Yeah, the thing like a hotel, a thing like a hotel, a guest house, etc. You know, it does remain at a small scale and remains at a scale which supports small enterprises. All right. This is the basic difference, and that's why I wouldn't say oppose the idea of.
But along with the guest also comes a vehicle. Rent a car or rent a bike.
Yes.
So then you have a parking space issue.
Yes.
Where they will park.
Yes.
They will obviously park on the roads.
Yes.
You see all these vehicles.
Yes.
Movement also.
Yes.
So how would you object to that
So
then?
now, two things are happening in all this. All right. One is that about say 30% of the guests who are coming to Fontainhas are coming with their own vehicles. The remaining 70% are not really coming. They're just tourists. They've landed from the airport. They've taken a cab, they've come to this thing, or they've landed by train, they've taken a cab and they've come to Fontainhas. Those are pedestrian tourists. They will require a vehicle, they'll move around with this. Now there are two kinds of vehicles that they will try. One is a taxi, which is either a motorcycle pilot or a car taxi, all right, service, or they will try to hire a rent-a-bike or a rent-a-car. All right. Now it's these vehicles that come from the 30% that come driving to Goa and want to park. Yeah, and the rent-a-car and the rent-a-bike tourists that are the real problems. All right. Now, if you look at the fact that these houses were once occupied by people, all right, they would have had a certain amount of vehicles that already belong to that house. So this, whatever is happening, is kind of a displacement of vehicles that did exist earlier. All right. I'm not saying that this is a solution. We can't really say that this is a solution because, you know, some of these houses which are otherwise can be just one single house given out for tourism, or it can be number of rooms that are given out for tourism, which means in other words that you are looking at something like 10 rooms in a house having 10 vehicles at the same time, and that's not sustainable. So the whole purpose of what I'm trying to say over here is that rent a car, rent a bike, you know, first should move directly out of the city. They should move to centralized parking lots, and these people be given the services of.
And who should give this information to those guests and all? The owner, don't you think?
The hotel owner.
Correct.
Yeah. So when they do the booking itself, all right, they are informed that some of these houses have got parking lots of their own.
You think your people will listen like this?
Yeah, they will, or they will not come here, which is also fine.
So all this is covered under the no more zone. It very clearly specifies that this is not for parking of other cars than the residents. Now, understand that we are promoting heterogeneous tourism development, and there is lot of space from the domestic ones. Now we in our areas, we also get upscale international tourists. There's no problem at all. They come in groups with guides. There's no problem whatsoever with them. The problem is domestic tourists. And the problem is not with 100% of the domestic tourists. It's 80% because they have social conflicts with us. Social conflicts are bringing in tension and conflicts. These are the loud and rude tourists that we have to deal with. The guest houses, the owners of the guest house, it is incumbent on them to tell their guests if they are coming with their own cars that you cannot park this in this area, which some of them they don't do. Okay? So for them, they are selective. If all the guest house owners tell them, this is not a place for you, please do not park, the problem is solved. They are also in collusion inwardly with all of them because they want business. But business at the cost of the peace of the residents is totally unfair.
This is one more thing. Second thing is even restaurants are there.
No,
Yeah.
so that's what I'm trying to identify, make a difference between, say, retail commercialization and residential commercialization. In a restaurant, for every table that you've got, you could end up expecting 2 vehicles bringing people to that place. So you can imagine something with like 20 or 30 tables like this could invite something like 10, 15 vehicles to that place. So those are unsustainable. They just cannot be sustained by this thing. They have to go to a centralized parking lot, and there has to be a system of dropping the people, valet parking, or a system of taking people.
No, but who will do that valet parking? Is the government or is the owner of the restaurant?
Done by the commercial establishment.
Correct.
That's the only way it can be done. You know, the problem is also. There's another thing I just wanted to bring to the notice before we get into.
Don't mind. Let there are more people talking. Please don't mind.
Who's
So there's another thing that we are also experiencing is what is happening from commercial hawkers, yeah, and this is something which is worrisome because the commercial hawkers are also trying to act like people managing parking. All right, so you've seen them directing people how to go there, how to park over there, etc., etc. And apparently they're collecting fees from the people who are parking. All right, this is a bit worrisome because this is going to end up building up small mafias, street-wise mafias, who will try to control each of these streets. You still start seeing these little battles between each of these mafias, and I think that this has to be looked at very, very seriously. This has to be stopped immediately.
I'm here to oppose the festival Cove, which we had last year. It was a one-day festival that was held at Fontainhas and the next day at Sao Tome. Now, this year, I suppose Fontainhas set a low. So, Sao Tome, we were requested to have the festival for 2 days at Sao Tome. Now, after experiencing everything last year, the participation of the locals has been minimal. And we have not been very happy, not happy at all with the way everything was conducted. So we do not want to have it.
Which festival it is?
Fetch the Pope.
Fetch the Pope.
They had
It was
last
something that started last year. So the previous ward already said no. So we have been requested to have it for 2 days instead of 1 day. Yes.
Last year, Fontainhas itself, Armin also is there, part of that. We also said no. But then somebody from Sao Tome bulldozed and they said we must have.
So a lot of things of this kind are going on. We are not happy about it. And we have the signatures of the residents of Sao Tome and Fontainhas who have objected to this. Your other page. And more signatures are pouring in. There was no time to collect. So we shall be continuing taking the signatures.
We have nearly 100 signatures now. would like to highlight and thank you once again for holding this press conference at such a brief notice. Our main issue was to highlight the grievances of the residents of Sao Tome and Fontainhas. My colleagues have already explained to you all the grievances, most of it. Our main issues are now, this is mass tourism in our areas. Now, we are not against tourism, we want tourism to happen, but it has to be a regulated and organized one. Mostly because this place has by-lanes, narrow lanes, and does not have the holding capacity. There is no infrastructure for this mass tourism. We prefer that this should be for the tourists to be a pedestrian zone. Now this signboard that was installed, which said no motor zone, is more causing a conflict. It doesn't give clarity. So the tourists feel it's their right of way to walk in the middle of the streets. So there is always a conflict between a motorist and the pedestrian. So they lay siege of the entire road. So also these two-wheelers from all these casino staff and the casinos, four-wheelers, they park on these narrow lanes in front of people's residences, which is of nuisance to the residents, because as they said, when there is an emergency, you cannot access your own place. So there are these rent-a-cars, there are these touts, there are these hawkers, which are causing innumerable hardships to the residents. And also those influencers and social media, people who come to click photographs, video shoots, this infringes on the privacy of the residents. It is a threat to our security. There are women and elderly people who don't feel secure when there is filming going around. You're peeping into people's private residences. So this comes because of this unruly and misbehaving tourists that we experience. So if this could be regularized, it would be of great relief to the residents of this place. So also there are places where commercial establishments have going beyond their limits and going on public lanes, which is impeding the flow of public, that is traffic or pedestrian. So these also needs to be addressed. We are not objecting for the festival that fetched the Pope, but we want it to not to be in these areas because we don't have the load carrying capacity. One. Secondly, last year they've been opposed to it. They said, okay, let us experience it. So the people now have experienced it and they have decided that no, we can't have this year because of all the hardships faced by them. So they suggest to take them to an alternate place where the infrastructure is there. It doesn't overburden the present infrastructure of Fontainhas and Sao Tome. That's it. Thank you.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
I even heard that those working in casinos and all are being rented here or something. Is it true?
Some places, yes, there are places that rent to the staff of the casino, but that is far towards Mala and that area.
Not this side.
Side not that I'm aware of.
That's all right. Because there are some.
Rent places.
Renting for staff of casinos.
Yeah.
Near the Lyceum there is one place.
Yeah, inside.
Further down.
There is.
Okay, thank you.